Dear learner, today we will study certain structures which are formed by the sedimentary processes. You understand the meaning of sedimentary processes? The processes by which the sediments get moved from its place of origin to a place of rest and then give rise to some other type of structure. We will study the structures which are found in the terrigenous sediments. We also call it clastic sediments. Terrigenous is because what is derived from the earth, from the terra cognita, derived from the earth is called terrigenous, and the other word is the clastic rock. We start with the very basic things in sedimentology about the grain. When a particle is formed by the breakdown of rocks, whether it is igneous rock or a metamorphic rock or a pre-existing sedimentary rock, it becomes a small particle, and the particle has got a shape, particle has got a size. Depending upon the size and shape, it gets transported from its place of origin to the place of rest. They finally come to rest on a surface, whether it is a sea surface or whether it is a river surface or it is land surface. Any one of the positions they get deposited, and then the earth processes, especially the wind in the earth surfaces and water in the hydraulic surfaces, they tend to move the grain from its position, what we call the position of rest. Here is a grain has come to rest on this surface. Now, this surface could be anything. So, one important way, very simple way of removing this grain from one to the other is by forcing this grain to roll. It started rolling, just like one after the roll, it comes to a position here, further rolls, further roll. So, it keeps on rolling from one to the end. So, this is one mechanism by which the sediment grains are transported from one place to the other place, which is called the place of rest. Another way it forms is by saltation. Saltation is that this grains jump from one place to other quite a distance and then again jump from other places instead of rolling. The grain is not rolling. So, this is very controlled by the shape of the sand. The sand shape could be little elongated, it could be oval, it could be rounded, it could be spherical. So, depending upon what is the shape of it, the grains move from one point to the other point by saltation. There is another mechanism by which it can form, especially if there are waves are forming and currents are forming. Then the grains get suspended. They started settling from there to a bottom by suspension. By suspension, the sediments are transported. So, you have two types of it called bed load sediments and one is called suspended sediment. The two way the sediments get transported from one to the other, and consequently what it forms? They ultimately ride over one another and then produce different type of beds. Now, beds are classified on the basis of how thick they form. If they are very thin, we call it thinly laminated, which is less than 3 millimeters. If you get a little more, it becomes thickly laminated, become very thinly bedded, then you call thinly bedded, then medium bedded, thickly bedded, and more than 1 meter thick beds are called very thickly bedded. So, this is a bedding nomenclature, how the beddings are defined, how you describe it when you are writing a thesis or writing a report, what type of bedding it is will depend upon the thickness of the bed. Now, they produce different types. As I told you right in the beginning, that grain move by saltation or by rolling or by suspension. So, it depends depending upon the way it has formed, they get deposited in a place and produce structures. One of the most common way of producing the grain is called planar or called parallel bedding, one parallel over the other one, or it could be just a non-parallel one, or it could be just discontinuous. This is a sketch diagram, a sketch showing that how the beds will look around, if it is non-parallel, if it is discontinuous, if it is parallel. They can also be wavy like this, and they can also be having curved, and a combination of parallel and curved and discontinuous. So, bedding types could be of different types depending upon how they look like. Example from the field outcrop that showed a horizontal shale sandstone alternation. Shale and sandstones are very commonly found together, and they form layers and which are laid over one over the other. You can see here these are small beddings, medium size, laid over one over the other, and they are forming parallel beds. This is an example of a horizontal bedding. Another example of horizontal bedding is you can see the bed extends straight away like this. It is very straight like this. That means when it was formed, they followed a particular mechanism of transportation, grain riding over one over the other, leading to formation of horizontal bedding. Now, this is a parallel inclined bedding, but they are inclined. It is depending upon the slope on which they were deposited, or they were affected by later tectonic processes. That it may be, say, the earth processes, it could be a folding, another thing. They can tilt the rock a little. So, what we call a parallel inclined bedding. These beddings also produce some undulation on the surface. That means grains move from one point to the other point, and they face some obstruction in face of it. There is grain is moving, and it finds an obstruction in the process. Then what will happen? Because of obstruction, it will try to jump over that one, and in the process they will produce what we call as ripple. Ripple is a common English term for anything, any undulating surfaces. There are two types of ripples which you find, which you call symmetrical ripple and called asymmetrical ripple. Now, what is symmetry and asymmetry? Symmetrical ripple is that if you divide the ripple from the middle or put a sort of a perpendicular to it, both the limbs, this is called one limb, the other limb, both are of the same angle. So, we call it a symmetrical ripple. They are very commonly formed by waves. On the other hand, if the ripples form asymmetrical, that is, one part of the ripple is gently sloping, the other part is steeply sloping, we call it asymmetrical ripple, and these are very commonly formed by currents. Now, you should know the difference between wave and current. Waves are those in which the grains are in the form of a vortex or a sort of a circular motion, while in a current the movement is linear. A grain moves from one point to the other. In a wave, it is circulating and it moves around it. Now, what happens in symmetrical ripple? A little more detail. In waves, you have oscillation. That is, you can say the water moves this way and that way, this way and that way. It keeps moving. So, therefore, sand grain, which I told you in the beginning, moves left side and right side. So, ultimately they come to rest, making symmetrical angle. Both the angles are same, and they ride over one another. In order to that, they also produce some structures like this. When you go to the field, how do you decide that this is a wave ripple or it is a current ripple? You have to see its geometry, you have to see its distribution, and if you have to see the measurements, what we call ripple index, we try to find out the ripple index. We also measure the slope of the angle of the two sides. So, this is an example of a wave ripple in a sandstone. Wave ripples are also very common, especially in coastal area, where the sea waves comes and then removes the sediment and produce a ripple which has got a look exactly like this. Very commonly, even in the modern sediment, you can see this thing, and these are preserved in the rock record in the same manner. So, all these things, all this knowledge about ripple comes from what we see in the present day scenario. In the present day, when we go to the river bed, or we go to the floodplain, or we go to the beach, or we go to the coastal area, we find these structures forming. Now, it is in the freak of nature that these sediments, these structures get preserved in rock record, and then ultimately we find them in our sedimentary record, even if they are 2.5 billion or 3 billion years old. So, irrespective of the age, they can be preserved in the rock record. Another example of a wave ripple. This is another symmetrical wave ripple from a Vindhyachal mountains area, where you can see that both are exactly same, and the crest has become eroded. With crest which was sharp is very even now and has become a polished surface here. What happened in asymmetrical ripple? You have a one direction of flow. Water moves from one direction to the other flow. Here you can see the grains move from one end to the other end, go up a particular height, and then start what we call as avalanching. This is the word which we commonly use, avalanching, and then again transported, and then again go to up a particular height, and again that get avalanche. So, in this process, the beds which are formed are curved. They are, instead of making a straight line, they formed curved, and there is a asymmetry between one end of the ripple, the other end of the ripple, and therefore they are called asymmetrical ripple, and they tend to form the typical cross beds. Ripples are of different types. One example in the field, these are called cuspate ripples, current cuspate ripple. Like a cusp, you have small ripples riding over each other, and in between these are we call the space between the ripple. Then some of them form lingoid, just like your tongue type. You can see here their tongue type, they actually represent different flow condition. Sometimes the ripples are affected by river, or sometimes they are affected by wind. Sometimes there is a combination of the two, especially in the coastal area, in the beach area, or in the river bank, where the wind also blows and carries the sediment and produces a ripple, and the water also flows and produces a ripple. Another ripple is a rhomboid, small current ripple. This shape a rhombic shape. This is because of the interference type of water. Water coming from different directions, they are coming and forming a ripple here called rhomboid because of the shape, rhomboid shape. Another type of ripple which you see, we call it sinuous catenary ripples. Sinuous because instead of making a straight line, they are curved and they are overridden by another set of ripple. That means it shows there are two ways the water must have moved and carried the sediment from one end to the other end, like this, and then from here to the other one. So, you have a superimposed ripples one over the other. So, we call sinuous catenary ripples. There is another one called palimpsest. Palimpsest ripples are formed by interference patterns. The interference of water from different direction and each current leaving a mark of its own, and therefore, what we get finally is a just jumbled up structure. These are very well preserved in the rock record and are very important marker for interpreting the sedimentary environment in which they must have formed. A very important type of ripple is called adhesion ripple. It forms in when the water level is just about few millimeter over a sand grain, and in that case, and the wind blows, the wind produces small ripple on water itself, and that small layer of water produces a ripple of its own. Then these ripples are very well recorded in the very ancient rocks, quartzites or sandstones. Another good example, asymmetrical ripple in a quartzitic rock is here. You can see the asymmetry, one can find out from which direction water must have flowed and then carried the sediment particle from one end to the other end. What is the basic scheme of a cross bedding? A cross bedding is that when a layer below or above is making an angle with the earlier form or later form sediments. You can see here on the surface here, this is a parallel bedding here, this bedding here is making an angle, it is a gentle angle. Then again in the bottom you get a horizontal bedding, and then you get again an angle. So, what in 3 dimension, when you see 3 dimension, you see that you have a inclined bedding followed by inclined bedding and by parallel bedding. So, the basic structure of cross bedding is by interference of 2 types of layers, one generally called horizontal bedding and the other one is called the inclined bedding. Those which produces a planar structure we call planar cross bedding, or they also form trough cross bedding. You can just see the trough, one cross bedding overriding the other one. This is formed normally when the sediment load is transported over a time and there is a continuous supply of sediment from one end to the other end, so that the ripple starts building over each one another, and we started getting a trough cross bedding, and they also called overriding bedding. This is how it looks like in the rock record, in a geological rock record. There is an inclined foreset here and horizontal bottom layer. So, you get an angle between these two and an angle between these two. So, we call it a cross bedding or also called current bedding. Within the current bedding, there is also a structure type of thing called dish and pillar structure. When the layers have been formed, they are transported over each other and then they override each other and form small bodies which are slightly incompatible with the lower layer. Some of the layers become deformed here at the bottom. This is generally called dish and pillar structure. Another good example from the rock record, here you can see a big cross bedding here and big cross bedding here, and with a bottom layer a horizontal bedding is a sandstone unit showing cross bedding. This is a structure which we call herringbone. Herring is a fish, and in which if you take out the flesh out of it, the bones which you see, they show crossing, one direction is this, the other direction is this. So, you produce a herringbone like structure, and this is an indication of very commonly found in the shallow marine coastal environment, because in the coastal environment the current flow is always multidirectional or mostly bidirectional. Another way of explaining forming a ripple is by riding over each other, riding one layer of sediment over the other and produces called climbing ripple lamination. This is possible only when the sediment supply is continuous. That means the weathering is going on and the sediment is being continuously being transported from one to the other end and then making a space for the other one, and there is also continuous sinking of the bed, so that it gives a space for its deposition. So, one ripple climbs over the another ripple and then finally, so you get a laminated structure riding over each other. These are called climbing ripple lamination. There is another type of structure which we call convolute lamination. Now, you can see here at the bottom, the rock is horizontal bedded here and this is a cross bed here. Now, this cross bed is no longer a straight bed line or curved bed, but it is deformed. This is because of the slope. When the sediments are in the slope and it is in plastic state, it gets deformed. They are not tectonic structure, they look like a fold, but they are not formed by tectonic processes, but just by processes what we call as slope deposits, convolute lamination. A very common thing what you find in the rock record, a cross bed lamination show liquefaction. That means a sediment may get trapped some water here and then these sediments start affecting the other layer. So, a cross bed layer is followed by a horizontal layer, but again these are small ripples which get preserved here. Then another type of bedding is called graded bedding. Grade, the word itself is very clear. Grade, when you grade from one another, the different types called graded bedding. All the grains are of the same size, they are all distributed evenly, then we call a normal grading. If it is, you see the coarser grain on the top and the finer grain at the bottom, then we got a reverse grading. Then if you get all the grains at the bottom here and then finer grade, that means there is a continuous fining of the cycle, we call it a normal bedding. You can see these are the two examples of reverse grading and you got a normal grading. This is how it looks like in the rock record. You see, this is a very coarse grained material here. As you go up, the grains are becoming smaller and smaller, and finally it becomes very thin. This is also an example here where you have got a very thick layer here. Why they have become thick layer? Because of two reasons. One is the size, another is the density. Some materials which are dense, they settle at the bottom at faster rate as compared to the other, and some because of the size, it also develops a higher density and get deposited at the bottom. Now, they are very important indicator of the nature of environment, which you call turbidity current. Therefore, it started getting sorted out between the coarser grain and the finer grain. Another example, a very interesting example here, in calcareous sandstone mudstone succession, you can see the continuous grading here. It becomes very fine. It is a mudstone top. Again there is a coarser grain and then there is a mudstone. There is again a coarse, right here is a coarser grain and then mudstone. So, you get cyclical deposits of mudstone sandstone, and in some places they also show a very interesting structure. You can see a flame, the clay material starts moving up into the sediment and it produces what we call as a flame structure. Another interesting thing which you always see after the rain or on the beach or in the river bed, that the muddy material which have got clay content in that, high clay content in that, then tends to break into small pieces. It started cracking, and these cracks in the modern way called mud cracks, you can see here, they get filled up by later sediments. So, it retains the shape of the original crack which was formed when there was a desiccation, when there was a shortage of water and the sediment which was here started cracking up. They generally form pentagonal shape or sometimes irregular shape. Another one called incomplete cineraceous cracks. You can see here the small one. These are the cracks which are developed but did not form the crack, complete crack. And they also get filled up by the later material and they remain half filled cracks. Therefore, they are called cineraceous cracks. Another structure called load cast, when the sediments are being loaded by material from a next episode of sedimentation, some material which may be of little higher density tends to sink into the lower material. So, on the what you get, there is a lower sedimentary layer gets deformed. So, you get this type of rounded structure, then these are found on the bottom of the sediment. They are not formed like the cross bedding or ripple mark on the surface, but they are formed on the bottom sediment. Another structure of similar nature is called flute cast because of the shape like a flute. They are all found in the under surfaces. This is what you see in the surface here is the upper surface, but actually in nature when they are found, they form at the bottom because of the uneven distribution of pressure or stress and transportation of the sediment from one point to the other. There are certain deposits which you call debris flow deposits. Debris means when you go to the mountain, you go to Nainital area or Mussoorie area, on the roadside you find lot of debris coming down. Now, these debris get preserved in the rock record and are indicators of debris flow, when the flow must have come either due to some avalanche or by flood or by heavy rain, and they get sometimes preserved in the rock record, and they are very poorly sorted. There is large grain, small grain all mixed together. They have a large number of matrix, but they do not show any sedimentary structure. Finally, we come to a very interesting point called trace burrows. Some of the sediments get churned up by organisms, like you have earthworms, you have got maybe a cockroach or any other animal or a snake must be traveling or walking over the sand, and in formation they will produce some features. They may produce structures, what we call traces, like some of them go and rest into a pit. they call simple straight tube-like form. They also go and make a burrow, make and stay there. Sometimes they form a feeding. When the animal organisms want to get a food, it produce called feeding burrows. Sometimes they churn the sediment all through and go around it, and we call U-tube type of vertical U-tube structure. So they are also branching. There are also horizontal feeding. This is a sketch showing how the burrows, they produce a group of fossils which we call trace fossil, which is different from normal body fossil. You know what is a body fossil? Body fossil preserves its original structure, its original shape, but trace fossils are those which are formed by the activity of the organism. Trace fossils are very important indicator of the sedimentary environment in which they are formed, like similar type organisms which you find in shale. There is another important interesting point called rain and hail prints. Rains, when they fall, if the sediment is slightly unconsolidated, then they will produce the small pits. When there is a hail, that will indicate that the surface was moist, was not consolidated, and it was on the surface, and there was a small gap in the sedimentation. Another example here of called halite pseudomorph. Now, these are very common in evaporitic rock. You know what is evaporitic? Evaporitic means rocks which form by evaporation. The result of a common evaporation is formation of salt, and the salt forms in a cubic system, isometric system. These cubes get filled up or replaced by sediment. Where will it possible? In desertic conditions, where there is a evaporation taking place at a very high rate. Last structure which we talk about is called autoclastic breccia. Autoclastic means a breccia formed by its own processes. Normally, the term breccia is used when they are formed by faulting, when by tectonic processes. But autoclastic breccia are formed by sedimentary processes in which the angular, subangular, rounded fragments, they get deposited and get cemented by secondary sediment called as a matrix. So, autoclastic breccia are good indicator of slope deposits, especially in those places like in the coastal area or in the continental shelf or in the mountainous area, where there is an interface between the continental and the marine sediments. Those areas have got autoclastic breccia. We have studied today the mechanism and the processes in which a sedimentary grain has started from its journey from a rock to final resting place in the form of a sedimentary structure.